So, today is episode 10 of The World of Marketing with Dave Freeze. Look, Dave Freeze, you didn't even crack a smile. Almost. I'm still working on the
That's
intro
a very
music.
Barnum Circus,
I
Barnum
know.
Bailey kind of intro. I liked it.
You did?
Yeah.
Why did you just keep that face then the whole time?
That's just how I am. I'm
Okay.
impassive.
I think you were. I was challenging you, and you were like, "No, I'm not gonna."
Yeah, I'm going to
not gonna
stare.
do it.
Just stare back at you like Bodie.
Okay, so everybody, this is the one and only. There is only one. Well, there's some baseball players.
Yeah, he doesn't like me because I have I control all of the
Right.
searches.
Yeah. So Dave Freeze, the Dave Freeze, David Freeze, lawyer by day, and lots of other stuff by night.
Very complicated.
Kind of like Batman. You have like there's a dark side that you go to sometimes.
And there is a light that they shine in the sky
That's true.
to calm me.
I can't compete with this. Whenever I try to go down this road with you, you always win at this particular
Tom, there are
game.
not winners and losers in the game of podcasting. There's just no crying.
That's true. No crying in podcasting.
That's right.
So Dave Freeze, you are by trade an estate planning lawyer, right? Trust and estates.
Yes, sir.
We got to say it that way.
Yes, sir.
Because that sounds better than estate planning just by itself. Is it different?
I don't.
You don't.
It's
you
like
do,
people call me Dave or they call me David.
it's okay.
It's all okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you are in Westchester, Pennsylvania,
Yes, sir.
which is an affluent area
It is.
where you grew up.
Yes.
Your family has been there for years and years.
Well, where I grew up was a dying steel town, so that wasn't as affluent, at least back in the day. So
I would like you to just tell everybody here kind of like where you started.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see where you pick this up myself, seeing how I know the whole story, but I'm curious where you take our listeners on this journey of how you chose to become a little bit about your childhood.
Just a little, though.
And your brother Rob, which is always great, and how you got to here.
Yeah. So I'll skip big
Like when you were born.
frightening yes.
Okay.
But I grew up in a town that was not affluent, and my parents had me when they were basically still kids.
In the VW bus.
And they had a VW bus. You have an outstanding memory. which at various times in my youth we would go on family vacations and drive. We drove that VW bus across America, through Canada, and up to Alaska once. And I don't know why anybody thought that was a good idea, but the Alcan Highway, which was not paved in those days, washed out. And we had to get to the coast with water dropped by helicopters. And then we went and slept on the deck of one of those Alaskan inland waterway ferries.
Wow.
Yeah, whales were coming up at night. I had a weird childhood.
How old were you when that was going down?
I was probably like 11 or 12.
Wow, that was a little defining for you, I think.
It might have been. And I went to a high school where I don't think a lot of people went to great colleges, at least at the time. There were a lot of smart people there, but the guidance counselors would say things like, you should pick a safety school. And it wasn't a good one. And
Safety school. I don't even know what that is.
I left home when I was 16, by the way, swearing never to return to that house. I was the 5th generation in a row to live there. And that's where I live now, too, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny how that is.
Yeah. That's one of those never say never things. And
But now it's okay.
it is. The town has changed dramatically.
Yes, thanks partly to you and your brother.
Well, we try. Yeah. And so this is all by way of getting to your point that when I was deciding to go to law school and thinking about what I was going to do, I noticed that at the time, Pennsylvania was not the fastest aging state in the United States, but it was rapidly gaining. And the the particular town where I grew up was not an affluent town, but the county where I grew up was an affluent old money county. And there were 2 or 3 other counties outside of Philadelphia where that was true. And so people don't believe this, but I could find witnesses that thought I was insane for talking about it at the time. I had actually figured out, like, well, I want to be a trust and estates lawyer.
How old were you when you thought that?
Well, I was just walking with Robin and Tucker past the building when I was probably 9 or 10.
Robin is your wife.
Robin
Tucker
is my wife.
Is your Jack Russell.
Mini Jack Russell, yeah, who we recently just had to pry off of a Great Dane.
Dane, you told me.
Yeah. So he's feisty, I guess, is what I'm saying. So we were walking by this old building, and I pointed it out and said, I was probably 9 or 10 when I thought, oh, I would like to practice law, and I think I'll practice law in that building. I even had a number in my mind. I wanted to make $32,000 a year.
That's so good.
But this is in the 60s probably, so 32,000 was strong. That
Right.
was a strong number.
Not like the 5 to 10 million you make now. Inflation.
Yeah, the numbers have changed, fortunately. But so I had this idea from the time I was really young, but by the time I was picking a law school and deciding where to go, I had figured out this is what I want to do. And I could even tell you one of the motivations was I loved the idea of, since the government had these gigantic federal estate taxes in those days, 55% on everything over $600,000, and I aspired to wealth. So I love the idea of keeping the government from just taking it all away from people. So that was a huge motivator for me. And so I figured, well, if you're going to do that, you want to do it where people are aging and they have money.
Right.
So the point of all this is I was careful and thoughtful about the pond I was going to fish in.
That's like so different than most people. You kind of knew what you were going to do early on, and then you set about going to do it. And since that time of making that decision, when you were 10 and the VW Alaska trip.
Yeah. That was just one of many, though.
Happened. I mean, you're a Mensa genius.
I don't think of it that way.
I do.
Here's the thing is that's like bragging to people, I'm
said
tall. I'm tall.
Oh, well, you're not tall.
No.
But
I
you're a
mean,
Mensa.
if I was tall.
I'm tall. I'm not a Mensa.
Well, listen, not everybody that has like classically measurable intelligence is intelligent. You know, some of them struggle. There's a point,
That's
too.
just a label, though. I was just to get everybody to really kind of get up to speed about how smart you are. And all this stuff like that you do, because you're also very funny and very charismatic and very handsome.
Yes, thank you for
Ruggedly
saying.
handsome.
And people can see that,
They do.
I think. They could judge for themselves.
Right, yes. As my wife has told me many times.
Mm-hmm. She's not, and
Handsome.
she's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
And I would just like to show everybody that's watching this rather than listening. You once told me that you were talking about Dave or Rob, my brother, and that your wife said, "Oh, you know, there's a sexy quality to Dave." And you, when you were telling me the story, made this face.
I couldn't help it.
Ah,
I didn't
you
understand.
said he is not. He's disgusting.
I didn't say that. That's what you said.
Poor producer Thomas is like, that's my mom you're talking about.
Yeah, Thomas. Poor Thomas. See? Damage.
Mm.
By the way, I wanted to just say, like, why everything looks so different. Thomas did not paint the podcast studio since the last time or make any big changes. But what we've done is we've gone remote with our podcasting.
Yeah, we're in San Antonio,
We are in
Texas.
San Antonio, and we're doing it from there. So we're here for Rem Jackson's Top Practices Summit, and I thought we would take advantage of this opportunity to get a lot of smart people talking. Anyway, back to you. So you're a very smart guy. You left home at 16. You
Yep.
went to you're one of those like Doogie Howser.
I was
right?
Doogie
You were-
Howser-ish, yeah.
for the lawyer.
Yeah.
So you like went to college
When I was young.
when you're how old?
Well, I went to what they call college in New Zealand, which is still like high school, but they have it like a year in between.
That's where you went at 16.
Yeah.
So you were like, "F this! I'm going to New Zealand."
Yes. Yeah, when I say I left home, I
That's really leaving
like
home.
yeah, you can't get any further away. You start coming back around
right,
again.
right. There's no coming back from that. Like And were your parents applauding it? Were they like,
Well,
or were they like, what are
no,
you doing?
no, yeah, they were happy because I went originally as a Rotary Exchange student, so that gave some context. I didn't just run away, which was the other possibility,
Right.
and so they liked that part, I guess. But I'll tell you what, that was transformational because when I was a kid and thinking, I'm going to become a trusted estates lawyer, that was all about me. I liked history. I thought that would be a way to kind of keep that in my life because you're studying law is looking in the rearview mirror a lot of time. What have the courts said? What did the legislature say? And but I was a really innovative person too, and so I learned a couple of things. Is there's advantage to thinking about what have people not thought about yet. You're still anchored in the past because you got to work with the laws. But when I went to New Zealand, I had a chance to become a totally different person. Nobody knew me there in any way, and so I really got it that it wasn't about me, like an awkward, smart kid that wasn't afraid to tell people, even adults, like, yeah, that idea you just had, that's really stupid. So that doesn't make you very popular.
Right.
So when I went to New Zealand, I had this chance to start over, and I really learned repeatedly the lesson that it's all about everybody else. Like you get to feel the best about yourself by helping other people. Well, first understanding them and then helping them to get what they want. So I came back to the States and then went to college because I hadn't taken the SATs or anything. So I went to a college that was near where I was living and said, hey, I don't have this SAT thing and I don't have a high school diploma, at least from the United States. And so admissions took me to the president of the college, and I'm a very persuasive person. So the next thing you know, I'm in upper level British history classes and having a good old time. But that was fun too because people knew that I was a kid, and after they figured you were smart if you were there and you were 17, and so they would, like, one guy started trying to get me to study with him and help him because he was struggling in this class. And that's when I first saw like what fraternities and sororities were like. This was an alien world to me.
Right.
And so I also was, as a kid, like dating women who had to drive me because I had some kind of like a temporary permit in Pennsylvania. We could only drive till like 11 at night. So I did have a weird experience when I came back. Yeah.
And then, there's like a period of time that we don't. That's kind of like off the record. Is that kind of when that started, or
no? That's a year or two later. So I went to took the SATs, went to a regular college where I met Robin, my wife, the very first day of college, and then the next year I went to school in England, and that's where the off the book stuff started.
Yeah,
I learned a lot of interesting skills there.
And we're not going to talk about that.
No,
here.
we
That's
probably
not here. It's not appropriate. But people that know what we're talking about, and I'm sure that you'll share with somebody that's like, what the hell were they, what were you saying?
What was that all
what was
about?
That period of time? In any event, very successful estate, trust and estates lawyer in an affluent county.
Mm-hmm.
You've done very well for yourself.
But a county where there were lots of not big firms by the way we judge them in large urban areas like New York or Philly or LA, but big suburban firms. So I went into a very crowded market. So for people who are saying like, oh, that's good for you, Dave, you got to pick where you were going to fish. Well, number one, everybody does get to pick.
Yeah.
But if you've settled somewhere and the picking's been already done, it's not a reason to say I can't do it, because I went into a very crowded marketplace and took a lot of market share, and the best, I'm pretty good at figuring out what I like.
How did you do that?
Well, I owe you guys a lot of credit for that, but we didn't meet until I had already done. Yeah.
But I mean, like, when you first did that, I mean, would you say that part of it is the fact that, your family is from there, or was that helpful or not helpful?
Yeah, it was probably helpful, but it wasn't true at the start because I was practicing right in Philadelphia. And so
were you at a firm?
Yeah.
A bigger firm?
Yeah, it was
the same firm you're at now, or?
No, different, because I helped to found the firm where I am now, but this firm was 206 years old in 1985 when I joined them. It was the oldest law firm in continuous existence in the
and
United
there's
States.
a lot of stories from those days.
There
that
are.
you have shared with me that are pretty funny.
So one of the things was when I was in law school, I formed a business and then sold it. So I had this model of how you build businesses, and I'd already tried a lot of things because I was starting from scratch. So there was literally nothing. And it was a business for professional, like students in professional schools like law school and dental school and the veterinary school. And they, back in those days, there weren't PCs. I mean, there were, but they weren't widely used. And people would pay typists to type their letters to apply for jobs when they get out of school and to, transmit their CVs. So Robin and I built a gigantic database of law firms based on their size and the geography. And then we basically said, hey, you're paying a typist like $1 a letter, and there's typos in them, and you can only send so many. But if you come to us, you could pick however many places you want to apply to all over the United States of these kind of firms. And the letter, you proof it, it's going to be perfect, and it's going to be reproduced exactly the way it is. And so we built this, and we charged $1.50 or whatever it was. So there was margin in there. And we built that and then sold that when I went to practice law. And so I'd already tested a whole bunch of stuff. Sure. How do I get people?
Right.
And I had already figured out there too, there's a need, because I listened to all the complaining. There's a typo. What am I paying this person for? I can only get so many a week to send out. And we could send hundreds of letters out. So people spent more per letter, and they spent more because they sent more out. So I applied the lessons I had learned there, and I had learned in this period of darkness that you're talking about, I had learned a lot about how people process information and how they make judgments about trust. And
yeah, when we say in darkness, it wasn't like a dark time for you. Like
No.
You were depressed. No, you were like doing adventures.
Yes.
Clandestine adventures.
Yes.
Is that good?
A clandestine adventure is a good way
it's a
of
good
describing it. Yeah.
But all right, so you sell this business that taught you a lot of things about it.
Yeah.
When did you start, learning Dan Kennedy and education-based information type marketing? Were you already kind of doing that?
So then, yeah, I mean, in the 80s.
Right.
And that is really how I built that business, and then how I built the firm. So one of the very first things I did was I ran a seminar, and I had a camera crew come in and video this. And this is back in the days of the, what do they call those big rectangular VHS?
Those are called VHS.
VHS,
tapes.
yep. And
Or
just
videotapes.
videotapes, yep. But it
Thomas
was
might remember them. Thomas remembers those from his.
Well, that's going way back. So it was expensive. It was horribly expensive to do this, and then the editing, because it just wasn't like now where we have ubiquitous access to a lot of these tools. And so then I did a direct mail piece to bring people into the conference. And then I videotaped it, and then I used that as a tool to bring other people in. So I sent this video of me teaching this stuff to a bunch of CEOs of companies, and then they would call me, and I'd do the planning, and then I would sell them on doing the planning for their C-level team, and then I would say, hey, shouldn't we work on middle management? And so I built a huge practice using direct mail, basically, but direct mail and video.
Right. Now, was that for the firm, or was that one of the other businesses, one of your...
Yeah, so believe it or not, I started out in litigation for the firm. So I was representing some big Japanese companies, a bunch of casinos, American Airlines, R.J. Reynolds. And so that first few years of my practice were litigation. And they had a trusted estate section, but it wasn't growing. And so that's ultimately what caused me to leave. I loved that firm I was with. They gave me amazing opportunities. They kept me on as a consultant for the first 2 years after I left on some of the sophisticated litigation I was working on. And that gave me kind of a buffer to do what I'm talking about now and to build that practice from scratch.
Now, another thing that you have always done, along with your lawyering, is you have these other businesses where you help other executives or other people with their business. Marketing, operations, all of it. and you've always had that ever since I've known you, really.
Yeah.
And so let's go back to when we met.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember the very day, by
Me
the
too.
way.
So it was, so Ben Glass and I this is a couple years after Ben and I started working together, and Rem, and that's when Ben approached, or whoever,
Capuzzi.
Mike Capuzzi, and Ben said, "Hey, let's start a mastermind group." And Ben brought me, Rem Jackson, Bob Battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Capuzzi brought you, Paul Partridge,
Yes.
Jim Palmer. Who am I forgetting?
I think that's it.
That was the original crew, I believe.
Later, there were some other
There
people.
was other people, but
Yep.
that was the first. And we met at that conference place.
Penn State had a campus in Malvern or somewhere in one of those corporate centers. Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. We were sitting across from the table, like doing, and everybody's going around doing introductions, and you and I were just like making eye contact. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It was very.
It was man love.
It was man. It was
like a man
I'm
crush.
Not ashamed.
No,
It was like
I'm
great,
not.
fantastic. And then as soon as the break happened, we both came around the table and we like shook hands, and it was like immediately became like the best of friends.
It's true.
That's exactly how it went down, and ever since then we've been working together, playing together, laughing together.
And that was the next iteration of my marketing. Was I built my first static, website back in the day, and then we had done some things in the meantime. And you guys came in and showed us how it was done. Mm. And you remember we did a 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
So we just intensively,
That's right.
yeah. And we did a ton of video. Remember,
the 5, 5, and 5 video series.
Yeah.
The 5 questions that people ask, connected to 5 questions they should ask, which was brilliant by you. And then the other 5 videos of after they asked the question. And those videos still exist, and that campaign led to some of your biggest clients. I remember you telling me.
Yep, it did.
And anybody can go see these on his website, but they're very smart because some are very polished. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Some are and they're all green screen videos. And some are very polished, and then other ones have you like the tie undone.
Yeah, let's describe the strategy, because people could do this in a variety of ways. Right. But if you're doing video, what Tom's referring to is we shot all these videos, which were the frequently asked questions that clients had, and I'm wearing the tie, and they look all polished, and the green screen's not showing. The background's been dropped in. It's all very formal. And then we'll say for each question, okay, that was the frequently asked question, but what you really want to know, don't you, is the answer to the question that our savviest and smartest clients didn't even know to ask. So if you want to do that, go here. And so when you go there, we shot with the green screen. Now we move the camera into the shot. Another camera shooting it. I loosen my tie. And so we shoot all these where you're clearly on the inside of the operation now. And so
the subtle changes in that made it convert so much better.
But yeah, I mean, they were subtle, but they made people feel like, oh, I'm seeing behind the scenes now.
People
Dave,
love that.
I'm on the inside,
right?
And it's much more relaxed, and so there's a lot going on in that little bit of process. But you could do that with anything. You could do that with a direct mail campaign if you want. There could be this formal, bigger letter and instructional piece and things like that, and then a follow up to that could be, I don't know if you saw this or not, but here's a photocopy of what I sent you in case you didn't get it. I mean, I do this when I do a program. I'll often print a whole bunch of materials for people that can't be there, and then I sign a little note or put a Post-it note. I saw you couldn't be there. I grabbed a copy of the materials for you and sent it.
Oh, that's
to you. Yeah, that works because now they're on the inside.
Yeah, and you're doing them a favor, and it's about them.
Yep.
Which goes to your other point that you were making about in all your marketing. I mean, I'm not telling you anything new, but this is for everybody listening. But in all your marketing, everything is about them. It's not about you. In a kind of a different way, it is about you. What is that? A bird?
I liked it. Whatever it was. It's
a nice
a bird
tweety
or
bird
maybe
out there. Well,
like a parrot or something.
That would be good if a parrot landed on the balcony here. Anyway, so it's always about whoever you're talking to. What are the benefits to them of your services, whatever they are, your product? what are their fears, and how does your service or your product resolve their fears
Or
What
not.
are their desires?
I mean, sometimes if it doesn't seem like a good match, the best thing to do is to tell them, "Oh, I don't think this is a good match for you."
And they want it more than anything then.
Which is great if it turns out to be
Sure.
a good match. But even if not, they will tell people, this guy was straightforward with me. He
That's
told me it
true.
wasn't a good match. And even in the course of time, when I've had to say that to folks, I've always said, hey, if these things happen, then this could be a good match for you. You come back and let us know. And multiple people over the years end up coming back and saying, you told me when I get to this point, this is for me.
You're authentic, and that's part of the thing is that you've got to be authentic and you got to stick to it. I mean, ultimately, you're a fantastic lawyer, and you know the law, and you've got a great team, and obviously you've got to have that, and the marketing that you do on top of that, and I'm always talking about you to all of my clients about, like, look at this guy,
Look what he's up
done.
to.
I mean, look at him. Look what he's been able to do.
Well, if they see those videos with the big hair, they're going to know.
All the stages of Dave.
If that guy who looks like a hobo in a suit could do it, I
You
can.
had your almost a little ponytail in the back.
Like a
Just
hint
little-
of a
right,
ponytail.
You almost had it where you could have like a little rubber band, a little ponytail sticking out. But thank goodness you came to your senses before cut that off. Whew. Okay, we're digressing again, but back to the videos.
I thought you had distracted yourself there
I
for a
did.
second.
I almost
Back
was
to the
lost. Back to the videos, though, because you told me, and we're not going to mention any names, but you told me, and I want you to explain it, how one of your biggest clients found you, or the CFO of his company.
Yeah.
So tell that.
Well, I think one of my favorite clients for sure, but this is not an unusual story. This has happened all the time. But in this particular case, it's a good illustration. My client told me later, he said, the way I came to you was I asked my CFO to research who in this area is really knowledgeable about this. And he came back and said, my CFO told me, I don't know if this guy's really knowledgeable or not, because it's not my area of,
the CFO's area.
Yeah.
Right.
But he said, but I can tell you this. Every question I ever type into Google, this guy's videos come up with what at least purport to be answers to those questions. And
He's at varying stages of undress, too, which makes me slightly uncomfortable.
yeah, it's a little creepy. But that is not an uncommon story, is that people will tell me.
And you did those videos years ago, and they're still.
Oh, yeah.
still
In
working.
fact, some of them we've never needed to replace or update because they are evergreen, which is another tip for people. Try to think of new takes on and new ways of explaining evergreen content to people, because these videos were put out when nobody else was using video.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
literally no
Right.
one in my
All lawyers
market.
are like, that's never going to work.
Even
And
now,
plus, even videos now, like, they're doing the wrong videos.
Right.
They're doing
Right.
these emotional, all about me video. They can't help it, and that's just not. That's fine, but that's not the only video to do. You need to have informative, answer the question that people have. Just like that guy said, every question I typed in, this guy came up, and that's what you want to do.
and it's interesting too. By the way, that's also not an accidental strategy. I try with every video I shoot to introduce other topics that would be of interest. In other words,
Suitable to your perfect client.
yeah, oh, exactly. So I'll give you an example. I have a new associate, and we assign him, we want you to write 2 blog articles a week, just for now while you're kind of coming up to speed, and you'll go down to 1 a week when you've got a big, robust schedule of clients. So I said to him, here's my things. I need you to think of topics that would appeal to this type of client. So I explained the client's avatar, the demographic, what they look like, why we like working with them, why we're well adapted to work with them, who finds the most satisfaction with it. I go through all of that. And the first article he writes is on who gets to make a decision about who disposes of your remains in your body and what kind of funeral you have and things. And he's couched it in terms of, there could be a big fight among your relatives if you don't do it. Well, it's kind of an interesting topic. but it's not one that's going to appeal. Like the clients I have don't have relatives fighting about whether they're going to be cremated.
This is a really
or not.
important point.
Yeah.
That everybody needs to take note of. This is $1 million.
It literally is a multi-million-dollar
Yes.
distinction worth
Yes.
making. And so he wrote for an audience that's even though I've explained this to him in excruciating detail, which is me admitting, I guess, that I wasn't as clear as I thought I was about this, because I thought I'm going to save this guy years of agony and just take him right to what I've already figured out here.
Right.
And so we'll work on it. But so even though he knew, he still wrote for the wrong audience. He's writing for people who are anticipating a fight about the disposal of their remains. That's going to bring in all likelihood. Now, we're going to put it up because it's not a crazy topic.
It's a loss leader, in a sense.
Well, we'll see.
Right.
Because that's my ultimate point to him is we're going to put this up. Our working hypothesis is this isn't going to bring in the right kind of reader. But we'll see. Like, let's check it out and see what really happens.
Because it's more of a generic kind of thing that's going to bring in anybody that's looking for that.
Who might even want to go to LegalZoom to do their...
Right. And the reality is that in these days, it's very likely that FindLaw and some of the more bigger websites will probably get page one for that type of question. But one of the questions that you bring up as an example as the kind of copy messaging that your clients, your perfect clients, the people that spend $7,000 plus for a trust and estates plan, and then will continue to go on. What are you going to do with the beach house? What are you going to do with your property when you're dead? When your daughter divorces the deadbeat son-in-law?
Yeah, so that's an example of the opposite of what happened with this. Now by the way, the associate I'm talking about has been with us for 3 weeks, so let's be fair. But you're talking about content that we write all the time, which is, if you pass away and leave your shore house, you pass away and leave your wealth, you pass away and leave your IRA to your daughter, and you're not really sure about your son-in-law and she gets divorced, is she going to lose that inheritance to a divorce?
You say so much in that. And I hope everybody that's listening sees the magic of that, because people that are going to spend $50 at LegalZoom don't have those.
They don't have those worries, right?
And so it's good for them and it's good for you, because they're not out there looking for that, and you're not having to deny them, right? But if you have a bunch of generic that's all the same like everybody else, and people are coming like, can you do my will for $48? Like laughing them out of there. These days it could go blow you up on Google reviews. So it's a big responsibility on what kind of content you're putting out there, right? Absolutely.
And that gets to intake. Yeah. I mean, one of the smartest things that I ever heard, and I regret, you'd think I would be burned into my memory where I heard it, so I can't attribute this to somebody, but somebody...
That's very unusual.
I know, but somebody told me, or maybe I heard it in multiple places, but that every point of contact with a client, a customer, or a patient is a marketing opportunity. Meaning, when they come in, how are they greeted? Meaning, when they call to make their appointment, how are they talked to? Meaning, when they sit down at the table, how do you greet them then? Every email, every piece of mail they get from you, how are the documents, the estate planning documents presented to them? These are all opportunities. And so I am constantly going through that process and saying, how do people become aware of us? What's the first thing they see? If they see that, where do they go next? And, every now and then I'll come in and I'll see weeds growing on the edge of the parking lot. But I would maybe not notice that if it weren't for the fact that I'm going over this idea in my head that everything they see, every point of contact with them makes an impression and they make a decision about it. So we spend a lot of time focusing on the intake process too. And then when I come into the room, even though I know, because we've asked them where they come from, I always ask, who referred you?
Yeah.
Was it
Who may
your
I thank
attorney?
For this referral?
Yeah.
Yes,
Was it your accountant? Was it your doctor, friends, family, loved ones? But there's a lot packed into just that question too, because we've introduced the idea of referral already. We've established that people who are important in their lives send us clients, including their family and loved ones. So it's a harmless sounding question, but it's a very powerful question.
It totally is. I mean, you and I have talked about a lot of that before, and I tell all my clients when I'm telling them to ask it that way. And here's the other reason why is if you just say, "Where did you hear about us?" then 99.9 are going to say the web.
Yeah.
And you're going to assume, "Oh, yay, my pay-per-click is working."
Right.
You got to justify that. But not you, because you don't do that. But
I do
a lot
do
of
some
people,
pay-per-click.
Well, it's okay.
It's a dirty secret.
It's all right. But no.
Well,
Me off.
I know.
Oh no, here's what I was going with that. Because people always assume that they're typing in these vanity keywords like, Philadelphia estate planning lawyer or whatever, and you're like, "Oh yeah, my stuff is working." But if you really ask, if you say, "Who may I thank for this referral?" it sets up, "Oh, let me think about that for a minute, because it was Frank at the country club that told me about you. Helped him last year and you did a great job. And then I went and Googled your name."
Mm-hmm.
So they did find you on the web, because that was the last thing they did. Ultimately, everybody's going to go, even if they do a search and find you page 1, if they do some generic search and find your name,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to go a further step and Google your name. And so always ask that. How did you hear about us? How did you hear about us? Because you want to take care of your referrals. If you find that, first of all, everybody that's spending so much money on pay-per-click, this is so important for you, because is that money worth spending? Most of the time we find it's not. We find people way overspending in that department and not spending enough on what you're talking about. And what you're talking about, you're saying marketing, but it's when we're saying that, we're not saying like selling marketing.
Right.
It's branding. It's the experience. It's the people buy from people they like. And if they show up and it's a pain in the butt, or the parking lot's dirty, it's got trash and the grass is overgrown, they're going to form their opinions already before they even meet you. And then you have to undo, by the time that they get to talk to you, you have to undo a lot of that experience that they've had. If the receptionist is rude, all of that is going to impact the relationship they have with you, the lawyer, once they get there. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about marketing. The other thing that I wanted to mention to everybody here is that you have what I will call a legendary campaign that goes, 7 years?
Oh, yeah.
So your Infusionsoft campaign is the stuff of legends.
So this is the difference between a successful practice and a truly valuable practice, so that it produces cash flow and builds value. Because you spend a lot of time, money, and energy trying to get the attention of new people, and then get them familiar with you, and then get them to engage with you in some way, and then ultimately to buy from you. It's a very, very expensive thing to do. And most lawyers never pay any attention to the relationship once the will's done, the PI case is settled. Yeah, it's transactional.
They're done. I got my money.
Yeah. And we totally figured out that real wealth and value of a practice is built by retaining the attention of those clients, the relationship, the trust. Because people just don't, lawyers always think, oh, they'll remember me, they'll come back to me for this.
Yeah.
No. And so we spend unbelievable amounts of money sending out a hard newsletter, which is not all about the law. It's got pictures of my grandson Bodie. It's got pictures of Doug's boys hiking with him.
That tuxedo picture in the next one.
That really should go in there. And we should say Bodie is 5 months old, wearing like a baby onesie tuxedo. But he looks like a 92-year-old man with a cigar.
This guy, those feet. It's great.
So we, and then we have this, what you're referring to as the legendary sequence, which is a drip campaign that's triggered by the completion of their estate plan. And it sort of sends out some reminders. Hey, go watch this video and make sure you do the stuff you're supposed to do after you get the documents. Hey, did you put the documents away? Oh, let us know if your insurance ever changes, or this, that, or the other thing. And so there's a burst of activity at the start, and then it gets down to, one or two a month, and then there are these bigger gaps, and then because they're getting other things from us, but then it gears back up at about 3 years. Oh, remember 3 years ago you did this? Has this happened? That happened? We're planting the seeds.
Right.
And we say a lot of times at 3 years people aren't ready yet, but the exceptions would be then these things happen. But most people do it at 5 years. And so at 5 years we're saying, hey, most people do it now. Let's check in. You can always call us. We tell people, you just call us. This is built into your flat fee, because people don't call lawyers because they're afraid they're going to get a bill in the mail. But if we explain to them right from the start that they could call us and check. So, all these things work together. So the hard briefing that goes out to them 4 or 5 times a year. A lot of times we'll say, here's this terrifying thing that the government's doing.
Right.
You don't know if that applies to you or not. Probably they do by the way we've described it, but just take this quiz and find out. Mm-hmm. And then it tells them, if you scored this, you better call us. There's no charge, or we could tell you for sure. But if you're still not sure from this, then just call us. We're not like the others. You don't owe us money when you just call up and ask us a question. So we have a much shorter average of clients coming back to redo their estate plans. They do it all the time, which is way better for them and good for us too. Thomas is looking like we've gone way over time.
Are we good, Thomas? Okay.
He was just frantically
he was Jesus.
Waving around. He shook his head.
Grandpa's going back and forth.
Like he was judging.
I thought he was falling asleep over there.
Yeah.
So
I was asleep in a puddle of drool. It was deep. You were deep in your sleep there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
your back-end campaign, all the stuff.
Well, here's the thing about that. Even if people come back and pay you half or a third of what they paid you before just to retool things, way better for them. Here's something else we find, is that the more clients pay us, frequently the happier they are, because it means that we did a really good job of figuring out what does this person really value and need, and then delivering that in the documents. So this is counterintuitive. People are afraid to ask for money, but mainly they're afraid to ask for money because they secretly know they're not doing a good enough job of figuring out what's valuable to that client or patient, or they don't have confidence that they're doing a good job of that.
It's ridiculous too, because that client is just going to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
they're just going to go somewhere else
where they may be charged more for an inferior product or service.
I mean, it's really you got to take care of your clients. I mean, that's really the bottom line, and don't let them go out to the cesspool of the internet and do more searches and find your competitor, and then you're like, why did you go there?
Or the dark web.
Yeah.
Where they could find a lawyer that will also
provide
them
with. They might find you there on the dark web.
Not intentionally, not by design, but mention of my name.
I'm on like my FICO, one of those things.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Tor browser.
One of the credit check things, and every now and then I'll get like, you're found on the dark web.
Oh yeah, I get those notices too.
Like, what?
Just your social security number.
Right,
it's nothing
don't worry
to worry about it. Yeah,
it's all. They just have this.
So, it's quite horrifying what they have.
It's scary, and you know.
Oh yeah, I
do
know
things. I know things. Okay, well, I'm always talking to my clients, my lawyer clients. Many of them are estate planning clients like yourself that are solo practitioners just getting started, or they've got maybe an associate or maybe just an office manager. They're struggling. What kind of advice, and it doesn't need to be an estate planning, but any kind of solo practicing lawyer in a competitive market, what kind of advice would you give these guys and gals that are just really up against the wall?
Yeah, so none of this pays off immediately. But what I would say is, regardless of your practice area, going back to the people that you've already helped, who already know and like and trust you, is likely to either to get them to come back in. Like in PI, this particular example I'm giving isn't true unless they've had another injury. But in PI, it is true that when you reactivate your relationship with them,
with your friends and family and everybody that you've known in your whole life, and the people that you go to church with and country club and kids go to school with, people buy from people they like. They'd rather talk to you about it than a stranger on the web.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, figuring out ways to go back to the people that you've already dealt with and know and that are in your network is very powerful. But in the slightly longer game, and by that I mean a sort of year to 5 year window, having clarity about who your very best clients are. So let me make a couple suggestions, because people tell me all the time, "Oh, this is my best client." And then when we look at it, it's not. It's somebody who's paying you a bunch of money, but with a razor thin margin on it. So when I say think about who your very best clients are so you can get more of them, what I mean is this: who are you uniquely and extremely well set up to serve? Who of those clients, what is the work that they buy from you that you like doing and that your team likes doing? Right. And of those, which of those things have the biggest margin, and meaning you genuinely make a lot of money? So you're making a lot of money doing something you're good at and that you like. Let's just take a look at those clients, because it's not going to be all your clients. It's going to be a sliver of 5 or 10 or 15% of them. And then stop doing things erratically and sporadically that you call your marketing or content production that's designed to bring in people that bear no resemblance to them at all, and start doing things a little bit more consistently that really appeal to them. What are they worried about? What answers are you giving them? What do they need more of in their life? How does that relate to your practice? How can you give it to them? What is it that they're terribly disappointed in or dissatisfied about, like that area of their lives where you're serving them? And then there are practice areas like mine where you have to sort of trigger their interest in it. Yeah. It's a deep, it's preventative doing
because
estate
nobody
planning.
wakes up thinking, "Oh man, I'm so excited to do my estate plan today."
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about that stuff.
Well, to that point, we tried.
But you can create.
You can,
the urgency, and that's the point of. Right.
You could create it, but if I try to create that urgency for 40-year-olds, I'm going to get people who are saying, "Can you stay late at the office because I can't get off work?" And they're going to want a less expensive plan because they don't have the urgency. If I could create that urgency for somebody that's 54 way more easily, because they've had a friend have a heart attack, their mom and dad's going into the nursing home or passed. They view this through a totally different lens. They are in their 50s way more likely to have the time, the money, the energy, and the motivations to do this. So think about who...
And they're less selfish thinking.
Yeah.
We get less selfish thinking, maybe, when we get older. I don't know. Maybe we do.
Well, I think...
More selfish.
At a global level, I think you get toward a retirement piece and then a mindset of...
Legacy.
Well, you start thinking about your legacy, but you also there's a fear piece. So the legacy is the positive side of that. And the fear piece is the scarcity comes back in again. And you go, am I going to have enough?
Right.
Or am I going to leave my kids? Think about this, Thomas. Am I going to leave my kids having to, take care of me in the nursing home or whatever it might be? Like most of us as parents don't want to leave that to our kids. So,
yeah, I'm not.
No.
Thomas will be like, "See you later." Dropping you off at the side of the road.
These nice people will take care of you.
He's gonna ask me after this podcast. So, how's it going with the estate plan, Pops?
Well, I keep telling my kids, you want me to work efficiently and effectively. Yeah. Sock that away. It's good for everybody.
Right, for sure, exactly. Oh, damn, I was going to cap this off with something. Oh, all right. So you help a lot of people. You have your Business Black Ops event and group, which I am very happy and proud to be a part of. I'm one of the original members.
Yeah, you're a founder and a warlord.
I know, and it's that people are like, what is that? You gotta see it. I don't think there's any room for more people. Is there?
Well, for this event, which will happen before this drops, there aren't. But next year. And the thing is, I have a monthly briefing. I don't know if you read that thing or not, but I have this intelligence briefing, and so every month I send out probably 40 to 70 pages of pretty powerful stuff. Yeah.
I love your newsletter.
Yeah.
So, by the way,
so people can subscribe to that.
Totally, and you should, because there's marketing just manna in it. And a lot of times when I am kind of struggling myself to find the message, all I do is open up your thing, and I'm like, there it is. And Dave Freese has been trained by some of the best out there,
Very smart people.
and continues to educate himself. You were just at a podcast last week.
Yeah.
And,
Podcast
I was
school.
like, what the hell? I was talking to him, what the hell is he a podcast school for?
Well, here I am doing a
exactly.
podcast.
Here we are. But, you're
We violated
always,
every rule,
You're
by the
always learning. We were traffic and conversion, so
Mhm.
you're always studying. And anyway, so what's the best way to get in touch with you, or go to talk to Lisa about?
Yeah,
see
so
what-
we because we don't make a big deal about this, we
Right.
keep this kind of quiet. So if you want to
It's just
subscribe
for
to the
our
newsletter,
listeners, Dave.
just for your listeners, yeah. So actually, here's what I could do for your listeners. Just call Lisa and say, I want to see this. I'm thinking about subscribing. And she'll just take your credit card. And then,
She's good at that.
yeah. And then we'll start to send you
That's
this
part
newsletter.
of the deal.
Yeah,
They gotta
but we'll
give
give you a
credit
month or
for it.
two for free. You negotiate that with her,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
not that expensive.
no, it's not terribly expensive, but it's incredibly cool because I do a whole mindset
It should
newsletter.
be more expensive. I
It should
think.
be. It should be.
But I've always said that. But you're very giving and very, very giving of your time. And
Well, I've been blessed, so I like to
you
share
the
that.
wealth. That's for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so how does Lisa?
So Lisa Snyder is at 610-933-8069. I would say that if people want to see my Foster DSS site,
Yeah.
which is a driver of business for all the reasons that we've talked about here today and others, they could go to PA Estate Planners, the plural.com.
Mhm.
And you'll get an idea of what's going on there.
And that's about to get. That's
Yeah, I hear it's really cool things are happening.
Just got the deal done where we're going to be completely redesigning that and pulling your blog in there.
And we're hiring you guys
and
to come, from what I understand, to Pennsylvania, and you're going to.
shoot somebody.
So here, I know we're wrapping up, but I'll just say something about that. One of the things we'll probably do is a kind of We Believe video.
Yeah.
While you're there. And that does seem like it's about us, right? Like, here's what we believe. But really, it's filled with what we believe so that clients and potential clients know that we've paid attention to them and care about them, and that our beliefs are consistent and in alignment with their beliefs and values. So you be careful with what Tom and I are saying. It is all about listening to them. It is all about finding out what they want and need. But once you do that a few times, especially with your best clients, you start to see the big themes and pictures, and you're able to do things where, even though they might sound like they're about you, it is, after all, what we believe.
Right.
But it's really reinforcing that you're there for them.
Yeah. That is true. It is always about them, and it's always about your messaging to them, and you're always improving that. There's no silver bullet. There's no purple pill. There's no panacea.
Well, and thank you for mentioning that, because my talk later is what's the silver bullet.
Yeah.
And so, of course, my one thing is 72 things, but
There's
we'll
the
figure
silver
it out.
bullet. It's
Yeah.
silver
Silver
with lots of gunpowder.
silver bullet is you got to have a machine gun.
That's true.
And not every bullet's going to do its business.
That's right. Well, Dave Fries, thank you so much
Tom Foster, thank you.
for joining me on this first podcast that I'll have you on. I'm sure.
Oh, I want to
many
come back.
come.
I had an idea while we were talking. I didn't want to just blurt it out there. But Thomas,
Blurt it.
thank you. No, I'm coming back with
Okay,
it.
we'll do it then.
Yeah.
Yes, Thomas, our
tickle it.
producer, always got this
Making
stuff,
us sound good.
Brought it all from D.C. to San Antonio.
You somehow have an angle here, though, that makes me look even fatter. I asked for slimming. And then I was like,
I
who's
have the
that?
slimming filter on my end. He already knows that. He's like, this is for Dad.
We've got to do some deep
He also
video
has like this ability
altering.
to put hair on my head.
It looks like you have a lush head of hair
See?
there. Yeah,
Makeup.
it's working.
No makeup. I'm just kidding. That's the next level.
Well, thank you, by the way. I'm serious. I've enjoyed being here. I love all that you do for us. It's awesome.
Thank you,
And,
brother.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, go look up Dave Fries and get involved. You won't regret it. And everybody, thank you so much. This is Tom Foster and Thomas Foster signing off from the world of marketing. See you next time.
So scary.